And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome aboard. I'm National Weather Service meteorologist Peter Chan with your Alaska Marine Weather Outlook on this Saturday, July 19th, 2025. Quick check of the sea ice. Continues to melt off along the Arctic coast, Beaufort Sea, and we have a fair amount of open water now through the lower Chukchi Sea extending from the Bering Strait all the way up to Point Ley and Wainwright. Still some areas of ice along the shoreline there, Utqiagvik through Kaktovik, but as we go through this mid to late summer period, the melt-off will continue until we reach the sea ice minimum, which typically occurs around the third week of September. In the meantime, the most notable weather systems are ridge of high pressure mid and upper levels of the atmosphere, as well as surface extending from the North Pacific up into the eastern interior and Gulf. This feature will begin to break down and fold over toward the panhandle as we get into Monday. Meanwhile, this low out in the central Bering will continue northeastward toward the Bering Strait, and it's all part of a larger circulation that includes the mid and upper levels of the atmosphere. So we have low pressure here over the Bering lifting toward the Bering Strait, and then we have this high pressure ridge that's going to fold back like this. Sunday, we will find that front weakening, but moisture spreading inland into the interior, especially throughout the west, with showers, areas of rain, some breezy conditions along areas of the west coast, especially getting into Sunday, Monday. And then along the panhandle, a couple of really nice days. Sunday, Monday is looking partly sunny and warm. Some areas could break 70, both Sunday and Monday afternoon. And then into Monday, still relatively dry conditions in the panhandle. That'll probably be the warmest day there. That ridge nudging right into them from the North Pacific and Gulf. Meanwhile, moisture will start to flow inland more so across the mainland into the interior because of southwest flow aloft, pulling that moisture in. There's plenty of mild air here, warmer air out across the Bering that's being pulled in inland, and that's going to create wetting rains across much of the interior throughout the week. So the forecast for marine outlook here for the inner channels, west-northwest winds 10 to 15 knots, waves generally a foot or two. On Sunday, outer coast, outside of Cross Sound down off of Sitka Craig, 15 to 20 knot northwest winds, waves 5-6 feet, and then west winds outside of Yakutat to Cape Suckling with waves of 4 to 5 feet. For Monday, winds will be southerly 10 knots within Lynn Canal, waves a foot or two, and then northwesterly 10 to 15 knots, Petersburg down to Ketchikan, waves 2 to maybe 3 feet. Outer coast, generally 20 knot winds outside of Cross Sound, Sitka, maybe as high as 25 knots down around Craig. And we're looking at waves running 6 to maybe 7 feet. Winds will be quite light. We have a lot of dip netting going on around the Kenai Peninsula, especially there, the Kenai River. And as a result, winds are variable at 10 knots. That's pretty good. Waves maybe a foot or two at best. You probably have more of a chop and things from the conga line than anything else. And then as we get into Monday, look at that. West winds 10 knots there within Prince William Sound, southwest winds up there, Upper Cook Inlet. Strongest winds Monday will be out of Kamishak Bay, Lower Cook Inlet to Kennedy Entrance, west winds to 25 knots, waves 5 to 6 feet. For Sunday across Kodiak Island, southwest to south winds 15 to 20 knots, and as we trail out along the Alaska Peninsula, either south-southwest winds generally 15 to 20 knots on the North Pacific side, 15 knots on the Bering side, with waves running a few feet, maybe a little higher, 4 to 5 feet there on the North Pacific side. For Monday, winds turn more westerly across Kodiak Island at 20 knots, waves 4 to 5 feet. And then we find variable winds, or generally west or variable winds around 10 knots all along the peninsula, with waves 3 to 4 feet on the Pacific side and just 2 or 3 feet on the Bering side. Winds Sunday across the Aleutian chain will generally be southwesterly 15 to around 20 knots. On Monday, the winds become light and variable just at 10 knots across the central and eastern Aleutians as the result of this little lobe, high pressure ridge lobe that kind of sits over the area. Further west of Adak, winds turn more southerly back to 15 to 20 knots. And then along the southwest coast on Sunday, strongest winds will be the Pribilovs up to St. Matthews, southerly winds to 25 knots, waves 7 to 8 feet. Bristol Bay, southeast winds 15 knots, south wind into Kuskokwim Bay at 20 knots, waves maybe up there 4 feet. Offshore flow along the Yukon coast, 15 knots, southeasterly winds, and then southerly winds across this wider expanse of Norton Sound with waves running a few feet there. Notice Monday winds do pick up because that front has pushed inland, the gradient tightening a bit. Southwest winds in the Bristol Bay at 15 knots, but southwest winds of 25 knots into Kuskokwim Bay. And we have those southwest winds all the way out to St. Matthew and then along the Yukon, the lower Yukon coast. 25 knots. Southerly winds continue into Norton Sound with waves 5 to 6 feet on Monday. Winds will generally be southeasterly, not just south of the Bering Strait, but north up through the Chukchi Sea on Sunday with 15-knot winds, waves generally running a few feet at best. And then as we round up along the Arctic coast, the Beaufort Sea coastline, 20 to 25-knot winds out there toward Kaktovik, and where there's some open water, waves could be 4 to maybe as high as 5 feet. Those winds will come down and flip around on Monday. Kaktovik, west wind 10 knots, but east wind Prudhoe Bay through Utqiagvik at 5 to 10 knots, and then that tries to turn around, so kind of variable winds here down Utqiagvik, Wainwright to Cape Lisburne. But as we get south of there, the lower Chukchi Sea will see southerly winds turn around 10 to 15 knots. And then along the west side of the Seward Peninsula and north side of St. Lawrence Island all the way to Gambell, look for southerly winds on Monday with waves running 4 to 5 feet.